Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar for 18th of November 2020. Now, this season, now what's left of November and December is totally going to be focused on integrated leadership, i.e., that's one of the first modules in my Ultimate Leadership Mastery program. And what I'm going to do is just expand on some of the historical data, some of the reasons as to why I wrote the Ultimate Leadership program around these concepts, and to really give you some knowledge so you can understand why leaders are now approaching this type of leadership and this type of learning. So if I look down, bear with me, it's just because I'm going to recite a quote or read something to you which I think is relevant. And it is an interactive webinar, so if you don't get an opportunity to ask me the questions during the webinars, then please do send me a message either via Messenger on Facebook or even my phone number, or whether it's on LinkedIn, it's fine. And I just want to welcome you all for being here with me today. Thank you. And I know you're really going to get a lot out of it. It's not as long as they usually run for, about an hour. So I'm going to keep them short, sharp, simple, because I want to ensure that you get great value add for specific points that is really going to give you an opportunity to think about, to ponder on. And you know what? You may even want to go and do some of your research. So let's get started. And guys, this is also going to be the weekly blogs over the next 6 weeks as well. So when I do my monthly webinars, they'll be focused on a certain topic, and then I'm going to expand on that. So you've got something in writing as well, and that's going to be the weekly blog that I upload every week, usually on a Monday. So Lao Tzu said, when it comes to dealing with modern challenges of leadership, it can help to turn to ancient wisdom. And that was one of the quotes that really inspired me, because not so long ago, when I was teaching leadership, it was all about modern context. And even though I was getting the emotions and the solar plexus, lower intelligence into teaching leaders, especially in the corporate industry, it truly was in the way that leadership is taught today. What I realized was there is changes of leadership, and this session provides you an overview of that ancient leadership incorporated with modern practices. And I can tell you that over 50 years of being in a leadership role, it's really given me a variety, a diverse experience into the different types of leadership roles that I have held. And that's why I've called it the integrated leadership, because I've held roles in corporate, I've held roles in the community, I've held leadership roles even in my family environment. And each role, even though it demanded different types of strategic leading, emotions and my mindsets and the intent always had to be the same. Otherwise, I was not going to be able to deliver at the deeper inner fulfillment that I would want to have whilst leading others. So are we really leading in a different way to how our historical leaders led? I know that leadership can be, well, it only begins from within, right? And as a proven successful leader, past and present, not only myself, but the successful leaders now, they have proven and they have shown that leadership can only begin from within, i.e., know yourself, know thyself. It's very difficult to be leading others or giving others something that you don't have. So you've got to ensure that you're actually practicing this and putting it into place first. I know for me, it's got to prove to me that it is worthwhile before I go out there and talk about this, whether it's in my speaking engagements, the workshops, or the events, even in my one-to-one mentoring. I need to know that it's the right thing for me and it's the right thing for the individual as I channel that learning and that wisdom and that knowledge around the leadership. everybody's different as well. Everybody has different types of leadership methods and strategies. It's really about you and adapting your leadership role so that you can meet the needs of the people that you are either leading or connecting and communicating with. So Winston Churchill, I love Winston Churchill. In fact, I loved working in his room at the Treasury when I was in the UK. According to Winston Churchill, he said, study history, study history. In history lies all the secrets of statecraft. And that is where we can learn much about politics by turning into the pages of history. Now, studying the past can show us really, really great historical leaders that on a political level did actually create and, form a world that we're living in today. And the past shows us that these leaders have shaped our world. In fact, the history of the world is the history of a few men and women who believed in themselves, and not only that, had absolute faith in that belief, but that faith first started within themselves. So studying ancient emperors and powerful dynasties can teach us that many of these people came with courage, they came with conflict, they knew that they had to work in communities. Some of them ruled with aggression, and some of them ruled with empathy and patience and compassion, and more so humility. Now, studying these leaders, it really came to show what their true characteristics were. For example, Winston Churchill's characteristic, or Caesar's characteristic, or, the painters that, created great painters, they were leaders in their own role. Einstein, he was an exceptional leader. He had such a phenomenal spiritual connection to what human beings should be as leaders. It was just amazing. And we know that entire countries, communities, the running of even a simple thing like running a household or going into work is the reflection of our ability to lead as a human being. And when we look about the integrated approach, it's like an emerging leadership approach, right? It cultivates collective learnings from various resources, which I've extracted, which I've seen has worked, and which I've found that has really given me great admiration for the past leaders. Now, these leaders, they just led, most like, I was reading up on one of the, forgotten his name now, I'm sure it'll come to him. But when he was leading in the past, he'd spend 10 to 15 minutes every morning just spending time on his own and planning the day. And this is during the Roman Emperor times. And we know many of the Greek leadership qualities are true to the fact, because many people lead with that, right? And then he'd spend another 10 to 15 minutes at night just having a reflection of the day. Hence, one of the reasons I take my clients through is having that weekly reflection, is having that few minutes of reflection every day. Because if you want to grow in strength and grow in your ability to lead, then that's the place to start. All right, so moving on, my ideal is to teach mankind leadership and see how they can implement that in every movement of their life. So to teach the universal humanity of what great leadership is, and to see that expand in all their life. Just bear with me a minute. I think somebody's cutting the grass. So I'm just going to close this window. Hopefully that will cut the noise down. And we know that emotions are a great driver for humanity, right? It's why history repeats itself. Everybody that has been in a leadership role has come from a place of emotions, whether it's a loving or caring emotion or whether it's to do with pride, ego, and arrogance. It's all emotions. It's just your choice as a leader where you choose to come from. And despite where we are, all these ages from historical to where we are today, it's evident that human nature hasn't changed. We are still leading the way our past leaders led. And probably the only difference is that we've got a lot more, I'm going to say, emotional. Well, let me find the right word for that. I'm going to say we in a sense, we feel that we've got a lot more responsibilities. And then we sometimes find it difficult or challenging to have the ability to respond to what we're supposed to do as leaders, right? Responsibility. It's your ability to respond to a situation. So for most leaders, I know for me that even if I'm delegating work to my teams or my co-workers or even to my personal assistants, I'm delegating that. It doesn't mean I lose my responsibility for that task. I'm still going to be there. However, I'm delegating the work and I trust them to be able to deliver with absolute faith and conviction in making things happen. Now, here's the thing, and I've learned this, it's cost me very highly. It's been a very expensive journey, is that when I've given somebody something to do and I've not really understood the whatever task I've given them. For example, I had a virtual assistant and I created all the content for a lot of the things that I was putting out in promotion. And when I gave it to the virtual assistant, she really just regurgitated everything and put it on a different template. That was fine. The other thing was like an IT task, like uploading my videos or creating content for me. I was paying people 3 or 4 hours worth of work. When I found out myself on how to do it, it literally took me half an hour to an hour maximum. So why I put that in there is that as a leader, we should at least have an overview of everything that we are going to be delegating to others, or of everything that is required for us in that leadership role, whether it's personal, whether it's in your business, whether it's in an organization or career. The thing here is, my friends, is that when you're in a leadership role, I know for a fact that if you have worked on yourself and you know yourself, you know your abilities, you know what you're doing great, you know where you need to improve yourselves, then you will make that real leader. You cannot pretend to be a leader, because when the true challenges comes, like COVID has given, like COVID has proven, a lot of the positional leaders that were in high leadership roles took a step back because they didn't know how to cope with the situation. And in fact, it was their colleagues or team workers that stood up and took action and started creating online content and online meetings. So again, a reflection as a leader, know what is required of you no matter what your role is. And I know that when I've worked with the self, with my clients, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in an audience, even for those that are doing the online programs, I know that they've got the best possible chance of seeing success in all areas of their life, because they themselves are great leaders within themselves, and that will then come out into everything else that they do. So if somebody comes to me for business coaching or mentoring, the first thing I'll do is work with them, because I know that if they're in great stead, the business, the successes, the accomplishments, the happiness, the joy and fulfillment will follow. All right, so that was a bit of a tangent. Let's move on here. So by studying ancient leaders, I found answers to significant and urgent social problems facing the world today, right? more so than ever, leaders who are in positional leadership are not really leading. In fact, their followers who have no choice to follow that leader are just following for the sake of following because it's a job or it's a task. And they are losing out because they don't have great directorship or leadership from the leader's role. So whether a leader is doing things in a great way or not so great way, they are going to impact the people that are following them. So just be careful of that. Hence the integrated approach, because even though there were different types of leaders in the past, they always had great followers. Take time, just go and do a research. Who was a great leader? Who was a bad leader? And then have a look at their followers. Whatever their concepts were, they were leading because this is what they believed in themselves and they made it happen. All right. Any questions? You can type into the chat as well. If I don't answer the questions now, what I'll do is I will definitely come back to you, and I might even private message you, because I know with some of the questions they can be really instigated because there's a personal wanting to know. And if I feel that it's beneficial to the whole group, then I'll share to all the attendees today. So what's this? Right. When I said what my ideal was in wanting to provide mankind great leadership, a lot of leaders, especially in the ancient times, irrelevant of where they were going with their leadership role, the whole concept was around wanting to make a change and a difference in the world. And even if it was through accumulating countries, they had that great mindset. And they brought that concept and practice together so that they focused on leadership as in that it was just one thing that was part of that goal. And when they had that goal, they were then able to put that ideal at the back of their heads and then to come back and start working on the leadership, delegating, showing the followers what was needing, their main inner circle people, so that they wanted to ensure that these people were sharing the same vision as them, to be able to go and share it with the armies or the other groups or the followers, or like Gandhi, he had all them billions of followers in India because of the concept he was trying to create there. A fixed mind leader knows that with leadership, yes, burdens do come. So they might just have one point of focus, but if a leader is open to possible changes and wanting to be flexible, even wanting to listen to the opinions of their team. So when I'm leading, like in the ancient times, I knew that they always held these circles. They always had, we could say, team meetings. They always shared at the end of the day. Remember, there wasn't any televisions or telephones or any other distractions other than the face-to-face communication. So in the morning, they'd have a gathering. At the end of the day, they probably talk about what was great, what didn't work, how are they going in the progress of accumulating another country or running another country. And through that, they all grew. They all had flexibility, and they were willing to listen to the other team members. Now, I'm just going to add this little thing in because I did a talk on it last week on depression. One of the reasons depression is increasing is because of the lack of personal communication. That's another topic that I'm going to speak on later on. And that comes from my psychology and neurotherapy side of things. It's sad to see, because even with the COVID, people having to live together, many people were still struggling to communicate and connect with their family members and friends that they were living with. So our Ultimate Leadership program really focuses on the holistic paradigm of true leadership. And why I chose to do that is because that is what true leaders need right now, especially under the current circumstances. And I'm just conscious of the time, so I'm going to be finishing this off. I'll just like, when I was working with a few leaders not so long ago, and there were women entrepreneurs, they identified that many of them was feeling vulnerable in taking action into leading. Now, vulnerability means, it doesn't mean that you're weak, it just means that you care deeply about things, right? You don't want to lose because you love things. And that love doesn't just come in a general love. You can love, little things, big things. This love comes because you truly care for where you are and who you're impacting. Now, I've been vulnerable many times in my life, and what I found is that that was my greatest strength. What I also found was that in the ancient times, there were a lot of leaders that were vulnerable. And when they were actually performing, when they were taking action, when they were leading and, accomplishing so many great successes, they never showed that vulnerability. However, they never let go of the opportunity to care for others and more so to care for them. So this is the first session of the integrated approach. I just wanted to provide you all with a little bit of historical data and just to share with you why I love this type of leadership, because it's the true way. And the truth only starts with yourself. You know how we say that when you know the truth sets you free? Well, my friends, that's happened to me a lot of times. And I will not lie. I aim to be truthful all the time because I truly believe that if I lie, I'm the one that's probably going to be punished for it. And I don't want that to happen. And that's why I loved creating this course. So if you want to know more information about my online programs, more information on the mentoring, the coaching, and the workshops we have, please do reach out. If you want to know more about this first paragraph on the integrated approach from my first module in the programs, I'd be happy to share that. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful month, and I look forward to speaking to you all in our next webinar.